Hello, everyone. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, depending on where you're watching me from on this beautiful day. Welcome to this edition of SOP Online Conversation. I'm excited that you're joining in today. I'm excited that you're ready for this conversation. It's a beautiful day. This is October ending, right? We're getting into a new month, November, and it has been a beautiful experience, I believe, for everyone for this month that is about to wrap up. Tomorrow is 31st of October, and the month is ending, and we're entering into a new month. So I believe our parenting journey for October was a blissful journey, and we had a glorious time. We learned a lot of things. So we're going to be diving into our topic for today. If you're watching me, I would like for you to maybe drop your emoji or drop a comment on the comment section so that I know that you're watching me right now. Wherever you are, you can just give a shout out so I know you're with me. Yes, if you're watching, so I can know that you're joining me right now. We're going to have an amazing time today. Yes, we have a beautiful topic that we're going to be talking on today, an amazing topic, which is tagged intentional parenting. As parents, we need to be intentional. We always go for yes. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Pastor Marach, I can see you. Welcome. We need to be deliberate when it comes to our parenting journey. We need to be deliberate in parenting our children because it is very vital that when we parent our children, we put in guidelines, we put in strategies that are deliberate so that we have a focus and a goal. So we don't just parent our children by default. Most times people, when they get married, they just have children and believe that the parenting skills are inherent in them. No, as parents, we need to acquire training, we need to acquire skills, we need to be taught, we need to read books, we need to get equipped for our parenting journey. And that's all about intentional parenting. Intentional parenting has a lot to do with being involved, being consistent, setting guidelines, being predictable in your parenting. You know, most times parents, when they have children, they tend to tell their children, I don't know if you have seen parents like this, that you cannot predict what I can do. You can't predict what we can do in this house. You can't predict my actions, though. I'm very spontaneous. In parenting, you should be predictable. There should be guidelines, there should be routines, there should be things that your children expect, and they know that when this happen, I'm sure that when this happen, I know what is the resultant effect in the home. So intentional parenting has to do with you mapping out your strategy, know your destination in parenting, know your vision, your family vision, know where you're taking your children to. It has to do with you being involved in parenting. So we're going to be talking about intentional parenting today. We have a wonderful guest today. I'm going to read her profile right now. I'm going to introduce her to the stream. So we're having a guest. Let me read her profile. When the need arises or arose for someone to help children and adults speak better, Omonikoro was born. Wow. From hosting radio shows to hosting events, public speaking, organizing spelling bees, teaching IELTS classes, scripting and voice acting, Omo is a jack and master in this field. Having identified communication as the root of the challenge faced by many in this part of the world, Omo is bent on ensuring that today's child is better equipped to face the challenges ahead. To fulfill this purpose at the Speak Better Academy and through the Little Genius Championship Spelling Bee. She's an organizer of, will I say, the biggest spelling bee competition in Niger Delta, if not possible, I don't say if not possible in Nigeria. We have a wonderful guest today, and I want us to begin to tap the drums, even as I add to the stream. Omonikoro. Yes. We are excited. We're excited for this stream today. I'm going to add them back to the stream. Yes. Welcome. Omonikoro, you're welcome. Can you hear me? I can hear you. Oh God. We need this conversation to
I'm
go
sorry, my
smooth.
mic was off. I'm sorry.
Oh,
I'm sorry, my mic was off. I can hear you.
I wanted to know if I should start praying and binding things this evening.
All the prayers have been done. Thanks for
Okay,
having me.
welcome. How's your day
Thanks.
been?
It's been great. Very great.
Okay, so quickly we're going to delve into this conversation on intentional parenting. Yes, intentional
Okay.
parenting. You know, as parents, like I was saying, most of us, you know, when we're planning to get married, we go for marriage counseling classes, and so people even go for counseling classes as much as like 6 months.
6 months?
Yeah, some people go marriage counseling classes as for as long as 6 months. And I wonder that when it comes to our parenting journey, we don't even go for classes. And people just get children, and when they have children, they just parent by, okay, this is the way I was brought up, or this is the way I saw my
Default.
mom raise us. So we're just like, we can parent now, we're not parents, we can raise children. So when we talk about intentional parenting, what are we talking about?
Excuse me. Okay, first of all, thank you so much for having me. Good evening, everyone. It's so good to be here. I appreciate the opportunity. So, intentional parenting, I'm sure it means something to everyone, right? But if you look at the two words, intentional and parenting, it means to parent intentionally. And what does it mean to parent intentionally? You know how growing up, when we're about to have lunch or dinner, maybe they're about to make a bar or yam, maybe like eba again or yam again, and they will ask us, what do you want? We say rice. And then they will ask us, should be yam, eba, rice. I did not talk carbohydrates because you want to sound like you want to eat something different, but at the end of the day, it's the same thing. So intentional parenting is not just about, what they say, anywhere belay face. No, it's not just about giving the children food, giving them, a roof over their heads. People in the prisons, they get fed, they have roofs over their heads. So it's way beyond that. Intentional parenting is not parenting by default. It's not parenting emotionally. A lot of the time, we let our emotions guide us. We let our, as just they do us, we they give the children hot like that. It's beyond that, right? Having said what it is not, I think intentional parenting is parenting with the end result in mind. What do you hope to achieve? What are you looking out for? I heard someone say recently that your marriage is not about you and your husband. It's beyond that. What is your marriage about? For me, before I met my husband, I knew what my children were going to. I can't say I knew what my children were going to become, but I knew that I had work here.
Yeah.
So as life went on and things kept happening, and as things are still happening, somewhere in my head, I know that the end result is the goal. So it helps me to also navigate each day. It helps me go through each day knowing that. So I would just say in summary, intentional parenting is parenting with the end result in mind, not at the back of your mind, though, in front of your mind.
Well,
Mm-hmm.
having the end result in mind. So it's very important
Mm-hmm.
that parents know, sometimes parents don't have a vivid picture about the kind of children they want to raise. So, like you said,
Mm-hmm.
as the child comes, like, okay, let's see where we get to. So a parent does not know that, okay, this is my child. I have this end result. This is where I want this child to get to, or this is the kind of child I'm expecting to raise. Because parents just do things, and that's why when you have the end result in mind, it determines a lot of choices you make concerning your children. For example, if you have the end result in mind, you can determine the kind of school your child should attend. So you're not just swayed
Mm-hmm.
around by this is the school that is reigning in town, or this is the school that everybody takes their children to. It may not be suitable for your child because you already have an
Okay.
end result in mind. So I think it's intentional
Mm-hmm.
parenting, like you said, having the end result in mind helps parents to make the right the right decision and make the right plans for their children. And it's very key. So I'm gonna go on in this conversation. Like you said, having the end result in mind. How can one be able to balance between being a parent and achieving success in every aspect of their lives? Because when you talk about intentionality in parents, you must be involved in parenting. And parenting is one aspect of life that somehow takes your entire being. So how can a parent be able to strike a balance between being a parent and achieving success in other aspects of life?
Okay, so this is one very practical and tough question because really it's what we try to do a lot of the time. Achieve success here, achieve success there. But as a parent, I listen to, I read about other parents, right? I listen to other people's experiences, and I try to do a little research as well because sometimes it feels like you're at a crossroad. It feels like we're not going anywhere. It
True.
feels like you're just at a standstill. But then you want to look at your children, look at the other things happening around you, and know that okay, I'm actually achieving something. So to answer that directly, I would say we may not be able to achieve success in every area every time. What that means
Okay.
is sometimes you're succeeding here, sometimes you pause, you succeed there, sometimes. Recently, I was having, okay, so I have two kids, right? For people who don't know, you already know. And recently, the conversation has been coming up about a third child. And I say, I don't pass homework. You know that initial homework stage? And the way we do homework, we don't do 1 hour, we don't do 2 hours. We stay there until we are done. If we're not done, we're not done. So I think about all of that because it's a very important process. My oldest can do her stuff on her own. I don't even need to. I can actually let her go without, you know, being beside her when she's doing her homework. That's because of the hours and hours that we spent at that stage.
Yes.
When I was doing all of that, my work, I had to work for about sometimes 3, 4 hours. I was working on the radio then. I had shifts where in an entire day, sometimes I'll just work 3 or 4 hours. I could afford that at that time. But right now, I cannot afford that attention for another child. That's what intentional parenting is about. You have to plan all of it. I heard of certain people that before they have children, they have to go to have certain talks. You have to mentally prepare yourself. At that time, I cannot tell you that my work was very, very, very great. But now I have done most of the foundational work. A lot of work is still going on, but I can now tell you that okay, I can focus on my career a little more. I can focus on giving back. I can do a spelling bee. I can do all of that, and my children will not suffer because that's very important. I cannot go and heal the world and then there's a sore inside. So yes, certain things may have to go at certain times, and I don't think that is failure.
Mm.
I don't think that is fail. I don't think if you are not succeeding here and you're succeeding there, I don't think you are necessarily failing there. It can pause for a while. And then after a while it will go on. I think it's a sacrifice we may need to make at some points in our lives. If you want to have children, you must at some point face that dance to that music. So I wouldn't call that I wouldn't say I was not successful in certain areas, right? I don't know. I'm not sure of the right words to use, but I'm sure the you get it right.
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. I get it
But
well.
something will have to go at some point. You can't if you're
Yes.
juggling all the balls, some will go higher than some. Some will remain in your pockets. Yeah.
Very true. I think what you just said is so key, and it reminded me of something I heard someone say about every parent is in a different parenting phase at time. We are not on the same phase. I'm in my own phase. You're in your own phase because we don't have the same ages of children, and the age of your child
True.
demands a level of responsibility that may be different from the age of my child. And like you said, achieving success, you cannot achieve success everywhere at the same time.
Every
Parenting,
time.
yes, parenting has to do with sacrifice. You may be in a parenting phase that you need to sacrifice and soft pedal when it comes to your career. And it doesn't mean you are failing in your career. It gets to a point that you have the luxury to give all your attention to your career, probably because your children are preteens or even teenagers. They can do a lot of things for themselves. So that when people feel that inadequacy and feel like I am failing, probably because you're in a particular phase in parenting and it looks like I cannot achieve these things I used to achieve, maybe if I had children and this. And some people even get to the point that they're not happy with their lives anymore. And it now looks like I have children. The things I used to achieve before I cannot achieve again. I am failing. I like the point that you
And you
cannot
feel
achieve, yes, you cannot achieve success every time in every aspect of your life. Your parenting phase will determine some things you have to let go of. I was talking to someone today that in those days, I used to travel a lot. I can travel. If my husband wants to go to somewhere to preach, I jump and follow, and I'm gone. But now I can't do that. Will I be carrying my toddler around and be just be walking? It's not possible. It doesn't mean that I'm
she has
failing
to
in
get
that aspect.
experiences.
It's just for the time being. So I really like the point you have raised. And for parents that are watching, you must understand this fact so that you don't judge yourself a failure because it looks like those things you could not do, now you cannot do them and you used to do them. I listened to someone that she said something that one thing that has to do with intentional parenting is that there's sometimes you have to make decisions. If what you are doing is intruding, I like what you said, that you cannot sacrifice your children for, was it career you said? If it's intruding and taking
Mhm.
a toll on you when it comes to your parenting, let it rest first till you have enough energy and time to do that. So I believe we're learning. Yes, a lot of people are dropping
Okay.
comments.
I'd like to quickly chip something in here, right? Um, Firstly, I don't think anybody should tell anybody what sacrifice to make.
Very true.
I think a sacrifice has to come from your heart. If it doesn't come from your heart, if someone is telling you what to do, it's not a sacrifice. There should be another name for it. I can't think of it right now. No one should tell you what sacrifice to make. All right. Number two, everyone may not have the privilege to give up their careers
Very
because
true.
that child will not go hungry. Okay. Some people
Mm,
are single parents. Some people, even with the mummies and the daddies working, it's still not enough. Okay. But this is what I say. Think about the end result. If that money, some people travel abroad and they don't just work, they just stay at home with their children because the money you're going to be working, you're going to be paying a minder with all of that money.
yes.
Ehen. So if that money you're making now, you're going to use to settle wahala in the future, just chill.
Rest.
So by yourself, count the cost. calculate, see where you are going, and say, okay, I want to do this, or I want to do that. So you are the only one who can tell yourself, this is the sacrifice I want to make. Yeah, I just thought to throw that in there.
Thank you. Thank you. So every parent, you determine your sacrifice based on the end result in mind. So we're going to go over. It said, what specific strategies can one engage in to instill intentionality in their parenting? What specific strategies can you adopt to instill intentionality in parenting, in your parenting journey?
Okay, so first of all, let me break that question down before I start answering it. Because it's easy for such questions to go over your head and you will think you've answered the question, whereas you haven't. What specific strategies can you employ to instill intentionality, right?
Yes.
Right? So, how can we go about being intentional parents, right?
Very true.
Okay, so I would say that parenting starts with us. You know how they say a lot of people think being a leader is about leading people, but actually, being a leader is about leading yourself. I'm trying to find a great spot for this phone. My blessed children spot my phone holder, so I'll figure it out before we wrap up. I would say parenting starts with yourself, being intentional about certain things. So recently, I was talking to my child, and I said, there are certain things I would naturally do when I think of you. And I was so this was a conversation. I was telling her that she inspires me to be better. She was like, me? How? And I said, there are certain things I want to do. I think about how I will see, how I will, feel when you do that kind of thing. And I'll just, respect myself and do better. So to be honest, parenting starts with us. One of the things I said earlier is we can't parent by our emotions. And I'm grateful for the kind of person I'm parenting my children with. I said it before that before I got married, or maybe before I even met him, I had received I had received what I would call for want of a better word, the blueprint on, maybe how to raise this children, basically who they will be, like, their names and, some really important information about them. And like I said, I'm grateful for the person I'm doing this with, right? So there are areas where I find myself because when we talk about intentional parenting, recently today I was thinking about this topic and my head was turning. I'm like, oh my goodness, me, intentional parent. Hey. So I find him catching me in a lot of areas. And I can say, oh, okay, Joe, calm down. I find him doing that. Before I got married, like when I was much younger, there's something we used to say that you don't are we all adults on this call?
Yes.
That you don't go to a man's house and then when you get there you decide that you're not going to do anything. You decide from your house. So if you want to go with iron pants, you go from your house in case. So I think it's something that we have to decide to do starting from ourselves. So sometimes I catch myself, raising my voice when that child will do that same thing, at a different time. Maybe I'm in a better mood and I won't raise my voice. So being intentional has to be, it starts with you. The things how you want to address certain matters even before they come up, how you want to, I think it starts with us. I think that's a great strategy to make it start with you, to make it remind yourself that, okay, this is how I want to handle this matter. Basically, so every other thing that will come up after that, that, okay, I don't want to yell, or okay, I don't want to smack, or okay, I don't want to, you have already laid those rules down within yourself. So if you find yourself always flipping, very irritable, easily getting angry, you're going to transfer it to your children. And guess what? Your children are going to be very aggressive as well. That's how it works. So if it has already passed, you've already chosen the person you're parenting with, fine. We can now begin to find ways to make it work from here. One more thing I must add here is my husband and I, our parenting styles are very different. Very different. For example, I see people doing certain things as adults, and I'm like, oh my goodness, I have to intensify this thing with my children. You know, you see adults staring like this. I'm like, did you want me to tell you what to say? I see certain things that I don't do, and I tell myself, okay, I have to, do this a little more with my children because how will they grow up and be doing this? I was telling my daughter the other day, my core duty in this world, on this earth, is to put you on the right path, is to help you find the right path. So I think all of that, knowing that in our subconscious, will come to the conscious and will help us do better as parents.
Wow, wow, wow. Parenting starts with you. That's very key. Parenting starts with the parents. Most times when we talk about parenting, the first thing that comes to a lot of people's mind is my children. What are they not doing right? Am I going to help them behave right? But the truth is that when you start your parenting journey, it begins with you. How do you handle your emotions? How do you react? Like you said, what are going to be your reactions in certain situations? So parenting actually starts with us, the parents, because I always say that we are the role models. Your child most likely will be a reflection of you and the
That's
standards
right.
you've created in your home. So it starts with you. Whatever you're doing is a reflection of you're trying to reflect what they see you do. I was telling somebody recently that I looked at my daughter and there was something she was doing, and I kept correcting her, don't do that. And I asked myself, you do it though. I like she actually and the funny thing, when I do it, I feel she does not see me do it. All of a sudden, always doing. I'm like, so she catches me in the act and she feels it's a normal thing and she's doing it. And I'm correcting her for doing it. And like, that is bad. That is bad. And she repeats, bad. And I'm like, me, I'm correcting. But am I not the one that's creating the standard for her? So parenting actually starts with us. As parents, most times as parents, we focus on the wrongdoings of our children and we forget to say, okay, what about me? What am I doing wrong? Am I setting the right standard? It's very key. So I think that's a very key strategy when it comes to intentional parenting. It begins with us, the parents. It begins with our strategy. It
Because
begins with the
we can't give what we don't have.
we can't.
Yeah.
We can't. We can't. We can actually not give what we don't have. So it's like a parent
True.
expecting to raise a child that is well mannered, well cultured, respectful, and the parent is not respectful. The parent does not treat people
Mm.
right. It's not possible, except God is going to intervene and maybe in school and the child picks up good values. I was telling someone that the value system of children is actually picked first from the home. The school is just like a support system to what
True.
we give our children from our homes. So parenting actually starts with us. Ah, we lost Omonikoro. I think she's going to be back. Parenting actually starts with us as the parents. We must up our games as parents. Most times as parents, some of us suffers from we are suffering from trauma, from things we faced when we're singles, from things we faced while growing up, and we have not dealt with these traumas. We have not dealt with these things, and we're taking these things into our homes, and we mount this pressure on our children. So we must heal and we must be able to set the right standards for our children. You must, as a parent, set your life aright to be able to parent better. What rules do you have in place in your homes? What guidelines do you have in place? I said something when I was starting. Intentional parenting has to do with getting involved. Intentional parenting has to do with predictability. Intentional parenting has to do with setting guidelines. So, what rules do you have in your home? Or you just leave your home and say, whatever goes, goes. You are the steward of your children. You are the compass. Especially when they are young, you give them direction. But if as a parent you don't know where you are going to, you don't know where your family is headed to, then there is no way you can give direction to your family. And that is why initially I feel I believe the first conversation we had for this year in January was about family vision, where I was talking about giving your family a sense of direction. As a parent, if your children are not turning out well, most of the time you must check out your parents. I know their parents are parent very well, and their children tend to maybe fall by the wayside or do some nasty things and the rest. But if you're a parent and you know that you are not giving your best to your children, then we must rearrange or retrace our steps. If God has given us children, God has entrusted us with lives, and God expects us to deliver. It is a ministry. It's your assignment. You have an assignment to put that child, like Omonikoro said, you have an assignment to align that child with in the right path. When the word of God says, train up a child in the way that they should go, that at the end they will not depart from it. Do you know the way? It is he that knoweth the way that will lead someone in the way. So parenting actually starts with us as parents. Very important. Now I'm going to read, while waiting for Omonikoro to be able to join us back, I'm going to just read some of the comments I see it's a conversation. If you have a contribution to make, you can actually drop it on the comment section and we can learn from ourselves. If you have questions, you can join. You can drop the questions. I'm going to read it out. I'm going to attend to them. Okay, Omonikoro is back. Okay,
Oh, I'm
welcome
sorry
back.
about that. I don't know what happened to that device. I just quickly switched to another. I apologize, please.
Okay, you're welcome back. So, like you said,
Thank
parenting
you.
actually starts with the parents. So, we're
Mm-hmm.
going to move on. Now, when it comes to intentional parenting, where's the place of discipline and setting boundaries? Because sometimes in this age and time, we see that most parents do not set boundaries for their children. Children are allowed to do whatever they want to do, whenever they want to do it. Where does discipline and setting boundaries come in intentional parenting?
Okay, discipline and setting boundary setting, they are closely related. However, they are two very broad subjects. First of all, I'd like to say that discipline and punishment are not the same. As Africans, the line is blurry.
Yes, very true.
But I'm a speech coach, right? And when I teach people certain sounds, one of the first things I tell them is this sound. For example, you see this sound where you say nurse, purse. First thing I tell you, it's not pulse, it's not nurse. When you know what it is not, we begin to edge towards what it is. The discipline is not punishment. Okay, we can actually discipline our children without punishing them. We can discipline our children in love. There are cases where people have been punished and they ran into the arms of the enemy just because they thought the enemy was the one who loved them. When I say enemy, I mean evil communication, terrible association and all of that. So yes, having said that, um, I'll get on to boundary setting because I think that's a great way to discipline, a child. Boundary setting. One of the things I've said before is have the end result in mind, right? The second thing
Yeah.
I would say is, do you as a person have boundaries? Do you as a person, because you see, a lot of the time, excuse me, children go out and they do certain things and the parents are embarrassed. Those things are not wrong in the eyes of the parents. There's a difference. The parents are only embarrassed. Do you understand what I mean? So you go
Yes.
out and maybe please give me an example of something children do. Maybe you talk rudely to someone or something, and in their house it's normal. You do anyhow, you see anyhow, anybody that talks to you, you talk to the person anyway. But because they're in a particular, place, parents are like, stop it! Why are you doing that? Stop it! And they want the child to stop. And the child is looking at them like, why are you acting strange? What's this how you wrong? So first of all, you have to know what those boundaries are for you and your family and your home. And boundaries are set up based on the values that you have. Boundaries are not built from nowhere. So the things that are important to you, is it honesty? Is it um maybe competitiveness? Or some people may not necessarily be honest. Just win. Whatever you do to win.
Yes.
And one of the reasons we don't have our spelling bee, the Little Genius Championship, over the phone or stuff like that is because I've had radio shows where parents or older siblings would tell children answers. You would literally hear them whispering. The worst of all is when even the parents get the answers wrong. I'm like, stop. So for some people, those things are not important to them. So when it comes to boundary setting, know what your values are. You can know them. We all have values, whether you bring it to your consciousness or not.
Yes.
We all do. So know what those values are, and then set your boundaries based on that. Right? There are certain words that we cannot use in our home. It cannot be found. It's not like mommy says. When mommy wants to say, mommy calls it the F word. The F. Mommy says F. Then you cannot say F. Or mommy says it, or then you say F. Mm-mm. There's certain words that cannot be found amongst us. There's certain behaviors that cannot be found around us. I'll tell you something. When my youngest started growing older, his sister would talk to him so harshly. And I'll be wondering, why are you talking to him that way? But guess what? That's how I was speaking to her. Once that realization hit me, I was like, oh my goodness. So that was her normal. When you do something wrong, you're spoken to harshly. But when I saw her doing that, I'm like, no, now you can't do something wrong, and they can still talk to you kindly with love, because the love does not go on holidays. So when it comes to boundaries and discipline, know the things that are important to you, and you by yourself put those things in place. Children will follow. I tell my students, I teach a lot of adults. I hardly teach spelling bees of children, right? But every day I teach adults, and I tell them, I know you know how it is teaching adults. Adults have been set
Yeah.
in their ways. Let me digress. I was talking to Minda recently, and I was telling her, she was telling me about something the child did, and how the child. I was like, see, children are malleable. Like, do you know what malleable means? It means they can bend them like this. Adults, we don't care. We are set in our ways. And my daughter say, "Hey, you are set." I say, "Yes." That's why the Bible says, "Should not be a child in the way we should go." I said, "See, I'm telling you the way I should go, and that's the way I'm going." But you, the children are malleable. So there's no child that you say, "Oh, this child is spoiled or is bad." We were all born with our brains empty. So I tell my students, there's nobody I cannot teach in this world. The only person I cannot teach is the person that tells me, I will not. I cannot and I will not. If you tell me, it's difficult, but I can try, yes, we can work together. So you as a parent, if you have understood that, okay, these are the things that are important to me, anything is achievable.
Very true.
Like I said, if people don't raise their children in certain places. But I tell you, anything is achievable. Somebody was telling me recently that, oh, my most of my students are trying to jackpot. Right? I'm an IELTS tutor. So she was telling me that, oh, she has to take her children out of this town before. I'm like, see, I was born, bred, and buttered. Is that worry? And then people ask me, hey, are you sure? Yes, I'm sure. What road? That's how I was born. And then we moved. Hmm. So yes, my parents they may not have known, as much as we do now. We may not have had all the tools and everything information that we have now. But I can say that they were quite intentional about how we were raised. For example, you cannot speak pidgin English in my house. So, my brother should catch. So those are things that they put in place. I see me now blowing grammar. My mom, if I tell something that somebody did to me, my mom will say, "You don't speak English for them." As if it's a tool, it's a weapon. But I mean, they had that in mind. That's what they wanted. So looking at me now, they'll be like, okay, we spent our money well. So I think every parent can have that goal in mind and work towards it.
Wow. Setting boundaries. Very important. You can't set boundaries outside of values. So, what are your values? Taking me back to what I was saying in January, we talked about family vision. And I think one of the things we spoke about was family core values, the values that govern your family. Like you said, everybody has values. But as a family, what's your core values? What are your values? That's how you're going to be able to set your boundaries. Now, I like the part you said that every family, for example, you decide what's obtainable, what you can do in your home, the things that are not allowed, like having a family constitution. So when it comes to relating with people, this is the way we talk to ourselves. We don't use rash words. We are not rude. When it comes to family time, this is what is obtainable. When it comes to nutrition, feeding our bodies, this is what is obtainable. It's a lot of work. Sometimes people are like, how am I going to create all these things? It's a lot of work, but the end result is always a great one. If we really take our time to sit down and decide values, decide boundaries, and boundaries must be, when we set boundaries, they must be communicated. Sometimes it's like you have boundaries in your home and the children don't even know what are the boundaries. And like, you're not supposed to do that. And the child is wondering, seriously, we're not supposed to do this in this house. Because it's like we're setting boundaries in our heart. And that's what will lead me to the next question. What role does communication play in intentional parenting? Because you can decide as a parent that this is what we want to be done in our homes, and the children are oblivious of what they are saying. They don't even know, and you start disciplining a child for what the child does not know, and the child is wondering, is this how we behave in this house? Or so what role does communication play in all of this, setting boundaries in intentional parenting?
So when we talk about communication, a lot of the time we think about words being spoken a lot of the time. But communication is beyond that. There's verbal communication, which is what we're having right now, and then there's non-verbal communication. Excuse me. I tell people not to fight, but every day they see mommy and daddy. That's gonna be tough. Um, we communicate every day with our children. the words, through the words that we say, through the things that we do. Um, some people take it as serious as hugging their kids and their spouses every day. You are communicating. So I'll use myself as an example, right? Excuse me. Sometimes some children come to my house and they do certain things, right? My daughter is looking at them and she's looking at me. I said, like, so I have to remember that, okay, with every child is different. Every child is different.
Very true.
You can even be the parent of the children. Every child is different. Every child's need is different. Even though you may have, you might have had all of them. But I make it a point of duty to communicate to the children who come, because you cannot do all this work and then somebody will just come from nowhere and spoil all the work you've done. So when I see certain behaviors in my home by other children, I remember that my children are watching and they are learning. One of the things we need to remember as parents is that a lot of the time our children are at their best behavior when we are around. So if you are complaining about your children when you are around, just leave it. A lot of the
Problem.
time, our children at their best around
Very true.
us. So I also want to keep in mind that, okay, when my children go out, what do they do? So I need to set certain things in place to let them know that, okay, this thing you have done, this is why you should know. Because my children I may not, do that every day with them. We're just used to the flow that, okay, we don't do this. They may not know why, all right? Or as time goes on, they may. But with every, new child or every opportunity, I try to see in front of my children that this is what you did. This is what you should, this is why, or this is the effect of what you have done. And this is what this thing can result. I try to break it down to their level. They may not understand at first. For example, teaching children how to control their emotions can be tough. A lot of children will just hit. A lot of children will just hit. Recently, I was having a conversation with my husband about beating your spouse. A lot of men beat. No. A lot of cases where we have about domestic violence, right? It's the man beating. But in some cases, the women beat.
Very
And
true.
in all cases, it is because they can. It is because they can. So if you see a boxer who marries a boxer, they fought before. They fought before. They know that it's only the house that will get scattered. You cannot beat me. They will find other ways to resolve whatever it is. That's why you see men who beat. They don't. They are madam of office. They know they touch them. Go beat them. So you cannot tell me that it's the anger that is controlling you. It's because you know you can. And one of the things one of the conclusions of that conversation is that we beat our children because we can.
Hmm.
Because we can. Not necessarily because that's the best way out, not necessarily because we can't find other ways, because we can. But as it has to do with communication, I would say modeling and setting examples is the best way to communicate to your child. So as a parent, I know that when my children get me angry, I used to have very quick fingers. Oh, sweet Jesus, I've been delivered. I used to have quick fingers. Such that when I do my lips like this, they just shift because the next thing that is coming is pop, pop. It doesn't even come once. But I can say that I've been delivered. The next one I'm going to be, the next deliverance that I can see around me is my voice. When it goes really high and I start talking very quickly like it's a typewriter. What are you doing? I'm told you to stop doing that. You said it, going on and on and on and on. But if we can model these behaviors to it can be tough. I'll tell you one of the reasons. I'll tell you just one of the reasons, and then I'll wrap this up. This answer up. Now we have the power, we have the money, we have the time, we're in control. Give the children another 60 years. 60 is too far. How old am I? Give them another 40 years. They'll be in charge, they'll have all of this, all of that, all of that. And they may be thinking, should I bring it to my house or I should take it to another people's home? But at that time, they would remember the kindness with which you raised them. They will remember the love with which you raised them. Because I say this to people sometimes when I'm settling certain disputes. If they put you in a house with yourself, if they clone you, they duplicate you, they put you in a house with yourself, you will still fight yourself.
Mm.
Yeah, yourself, you will quarrel. So it's not because they're doing something wrong. We will always make mistakes. But how are you, fixing that? How are you correcting that? That's the most important part. And I think we, first of all, have, roles to play, have work to do, and then we cannot model the right behavior to our children. If we can do that, we have successfully communicated what we want to see to them. We would have successfully communicated.
Wow. Wow. Modeling behavior. I think there's
Yes.
no conversation we have on this platform that we don't talk about modeling the right behavior. Like you said, I believe that that's one of the key ways we can actually communicate values and raise our
Hmm.
children right. Communication, like you said, is verbal and non-verbal. Most times as parents, we may say the right things that we expect them to do, and we don't do the same things.
Do
And
what I
there's
say,
always,
not what I
yes,
do.
do what I say and not do what I do. Do what I say, yes, and not do what I do. But it should actually be do what I say and do what I do. If some of the parents are actually listening, and those that may listen to this later, if we really want to assess ourselves, we find out that if we're really true to ourselves, will you actually want your children to do exactly what you do all the time? I think most of the answer may likely be no, not in some circumstances. But we say it, do this, read your books. You don't even read as a parent. Start spending
Ah,
time on your gadgets. You are always with your gadgets, morning till night.
this
You come to
table, this table, this
this
table is going to break. The people on this table are too much. It's going to break.
they see you there, they see you there. Do this, you are not doing it as a parent. So I think, like you said, communicating values, communicating when it comes to boundaries, apart from saying it. Oh, we just lost Omonikoro. I think she'll be back. Apart from saying it, apart from maybe letting your children know on a daily basis, you must live what you are saying, what you are teaching them, what you are communicating to them verbally. If you have a rule in your home that no one talks to anyone rudely, as a parent, you should not be rude when you're talking to your children. You should not be rude when you're talking to your spouse. It is very important that we model the behavior we want to see in our children. Very key. So let us be good role models because our children will copy what they see. And if you actually are true to yourself, just look at your children. You will find out that most of the things you do or your spouse do, that's what they are doing. And most of the times we complain a lot about it. But let us change our ways, and I believe our children will follow suit. So it's very important. And I like what you said. That's going to take us to the next question. That when your children becomes they become in control, they will decide if they want to be to the house, they decide how you raise them up and the rest. Memories. As parents, we
Even if you
must
can
learn
take
to
care of yourself, some may decide to not be in your life.
yes, they decide to just leave you to yourself. They don't call, they don't check on you, and you just live your life in isolation. It looks like you never have children. Now, bringing the next question up, how important is quality time in all of this? This is something we always talk about in our conversations. How important is quality time?
Um, I think quality time is very important. But first of all, let's even talk about time. Before we
Okay,
even get to quality time, let's talk about time. And time is not just being there. You can be in a room with a lot of people and be lonely. Time is not just being there. Time is actually excuse me, engaging, having those conversations. How often do you ask your kids how their day went and wait for the response? Not like you ask in passing, you ask and you wait for the response. Like, what was the best part of your day? How did your day go today? What didn't you like that happened today? How often do we do that? And then beyond the conversations, we now even begin to get into activities with them. The day goes by, the days go by quickly.
very quick.
7 a.m. they're out of the house. 3 or 4 p.m. they're back. You still have work to do. They've slept. 5 days have gone by. How many days are remaining in the life? Your children will never be children. They only have now to be children. We only have now to build the foundation that we need to build. So I feel with quality time, we have to be again intentional about it. Earlier, I was saying I spend about 2 hours or more on homework with my toddlers, and it sounds like I don't have work or I don't know what I'm or it may sound that way, but even beyond the homework, you want to ensure. Sometimes my husband comes home earlier than he planned to just because he wants to be with the kids. Not like he doesn't have work to do, but that time, he's being intentional about that time. And I think it may not be convenient a lot of the time. A lot of the time, it may not be convenient. Um, I try to do things with the end goal in mind. So think about children coming from school and their parents are really busy, not because they want to be, lackadaisical about their children's schoolwork, but they don't have time to go through the books of their kids. I say to parents, you see, sometimes children would learn because a teacher, whatever, whatever. But you see, the child that learns because I want to tell mommy something, I want to, the love of their parents, the children that are inspired by the love of the parents, that kind of learning is different. So, in summary, the time may not be there, it may not be convenient. But you see, when they fall sick, the time suddenly shows up from nowhere, and we spend time with them in the hospital. So, don't wait till they fall sick. You know how they say, if you don't take food like medicine, you will take medicine like food. I think you can think about quality time that way. Let it be 10 minutes. Let it be 30 minutes. Let it be before their bedtime. Put the phone down. Dear parent, put the phone down and look into your child's eyes when they're talking. Like, let the world wait because now is all that we have.
True. Very true. Very true. The busy schedule that we have as parents. Parents are we're actually busy, but like you said, no matter how little the time is, be present. Be present.
I
So
like
if
to
you have,
live each day like the last.
well, it's true. All we
I
have is
like to.
now.
Mhm.
Let's be present. If you don't have so much time, try to create even if it's a little time in the day. But when you create that time, be present there. Like you said, I like the
Yeah.
part drop the phone and the gadgets. We're so distracted in this time and age, so much distraction. And it makes us to some extent put family behind and we're so carried away. So let's be present. Talk to your children, like you said, look into their eyes and talk to them. Listen to
Mm.
them. Like you said, when you ask your child, how's your day? You do it in passing. You just say, how was your day? And you don't even care to listen to the answer. Like, okay, that's fine. It's just like a formality, like you greet. Good afternoon, ma'am. How was your day? Or how are you? You don't even care what the answer is. You're done. Let's try to create time and let's be present. Let's be present. We're gradually wrapping up on this conversation. And it's been a very interesting conversation, a wonderful one. If you have questions,
Very.
please you can drop it on the comment section, please, if you have questions. Now, have there been any obstacles you've encountered in your intentional parenting journey, and how did you overcome them? Any obstacles?
Excuse me. Okay, for me, I would say obstacles would be like I said before, my husband and I we have very different styles of parenting. So if I would say I've encountered any obstacle, for want of a better obstacle, I may just call it that. But I feel like a lot of people are faced with real obstacles. I don't think that's an obstacle. A lot of people are faced with a lot because imagine that you marry someone. That's why it starts with who you get married to. You start with the values. You don't want to look out for tall, dark, and handsome. If it's tall, dark, and handsome, glory be to God. But what are the person's values? Because if you are married to someone whose values and yours do not align, how are you going to raise those children together? I feel like those are real obstacles that people face. But then, one of the things I've told myself with my parenting style and my husband's is we are both going in the same direction. We are both going to the same. We both have the same destination in mind. Okay, we both have the same destination in mind. So, what's the best way to go about this? For example, certain times I tell my kids certain things, right? But I feel like they also need someone else to amplify that thing that they hear because they may just feel like, oh, mommy has come again. These things cannot be that important. This is just, sometimes your children feel this thing is your preference. not because it's actually bad or because it's good. You just feel that's what you prefer. So if you hear someone else, for example, we don't compromise on, spirituality, prayers, and all of that. We don't compromise on those things. We all agree with it. There's a common ground. But as it has to do with, excuse me, I'm hoping we'll talk about responsibility today. As it has to do with responsibilities and the likes, they need to hear someone else say. So when I am having certain conversations with my child and she's not so pleased, and someone comes and is jokingly saying, "Don't mind your mommy," yeah, it's not a joke. It's not a joke. If you think what I'm saying is not right, ask her not to. Don't mind your mommy means pay your mommy no heed. Pay
Yes.
her no heed. She has come again with a wahala. That's what it means. But if you think what I'm saying makes sense, amplify my voice. Sweetie, what mommy is trying to say is, I think you cannot say it in a different way. What? Don't mind mommy. For what? Please. Don't let me go and change it for you.
Wow. Okay, there's actually a question here. I'm going to read it out.
Mhm.
Um, how do you differentiate between punishment and abuse? How do you draw a line when you are punishing your child and when it leads to let me try and understand. And it leads how do you draw a line when you are punishing your child and when it leads to you abusing your child, being abusing your child? I think the important question is here. How do you draw or differentiate between punishment and abuse?
Two of them in the bin. The two both of them join together in the bin. Mind you, what I'm saying tonight, excuse me, is based on my opinion, based on my experiences, based on my background, based on things that have worked for me, right? So you can choose to take them or you can choose to put them in the bin. Of punishment and abuse, they both go in the bin. The key word is discipline. And there's something my husband says to catch me, to make me pause and, just hold on right where you are. Um, the things you said your mommy did to you, you're not doing anyone to your child that you did not like. The things your mommy did to you that you did not like, I'll be like, eh, bullshit. But you also, so as we grow older, we actually see reasons with our parents. Oh, that's why my mommy used to do this. But when you were younger, you didn't see reasons. And then somebody just puts it this way: it says, "Be the parent you always wanted.
Hmm.
Be that parent that you always wanted as a child." So my husband will tell me about how he did something that he really didn't know that the thing was bad. But in the eyes of an adult, what were you thinking? So for him, he's able to put himself in the children's shoes and see that they did not mean to spite you. They did not mean to be wicked to you. They were just being children. And I'm grateful for that voice sometimes because after having a long day, you now came to pour the water on you and I've been telling you since to leave this bottle alone. You did not leave it alone. Now you poured everything on the ground. It's good to have that voice sometimes that tells you the child didn't really want to punish you, was just being a child. So having that in mind makes you know that okay, I don't want to punish this child. I don't want to spite, I want to just discipline and change this behavior. So the problem is not the child. The problem is the behavior. The problem is not the child. The problem is the behavior. If you remember that the problem is not the child, you will not call the child names. I was I was asking a child one day, why did you do that? She said because I'm not naughty, because I'm wicked. She said something. And I was like, who told you that? She mentioned the person who told her that she's that. So maybe every time she's naughty, the person tells her, what kind of wicked thing have you done? Why are you so wicked? And then she told me, innocence, that I did it because I'm wicked. So the problem is not the child. The problem is that behavior. So how can you now drive that behavior away? So that you tell you, I go whip nonsense come off everybody. So you tell yourself you want to whip that behavior away. Or really, if you can pause and think, we're still having that conversation whether we should smack or not smack. We're still in the middle of having that conversation here in this part of the world. But what I would say is delay it. Delay it. Have a good meal. That thing that's stressing you, fix it. Do all of that, and see if you still with that child. Not with the begin to do you. That afford Tinubu. Tinubu that is being used all the time. So we can, try to that works as well.
Very true. Focus on
Mm-hmm.
the behavior that needs to change. Discipline has to do with making
There's
a
nothing wrong with the
disciple.
child.
Yes, discipline has to do with making a disciple. It has to do with training, molding. So when we talk about punishment, are you actually molding the child or training the child? Most times we do it in the heat of anger, and we don't really get the end result we expect. And sometimes some parents take it overboard and they inflict injuries on their children in just to say that you're punishing your child or correcting a behavior, and the child comes with body injuries, a lot of things. So, like you said, let's pause and rethink. If you're going to inflict that punishment on the child, is there a better way to correct that behavior to get the same result you want? So we need to think on these things. We need to really think on them so that we don't just inflict pain on our children, inflict injuries on them, and we say we're trying to punish. I know most times parents will say that that's how we're brought up. It worked. Is my life not better? And sometimes I wonder, I wonder, are you really better? Do you know the trauma some people have gone through as parents and they've taken it into their parenting journey and they've not healed from it and they're transferring to their children? So sometimes let's sit back and think and really think. Let's not be quick to do all the punishing that inflicts pain on our children. So we're going to be wrapping up this conversation right away. There are a lot of comments, and I believe I've had a lovely time. I've learned a lot today. We're still in the learning process, every one of us. It's a journey, and we learn on the journey. We don't stop learning. Learning is progressive. So, Omonikoro, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you for
Any
having
words?
me.
I've been saying plenty things. So, signing out words, something advice for the parents watching. I believe there are singles watching us, and like you said, it's very correct. Parenting starts with who you marry. Parenting starts with your choice of a life partner. That's where it starts from.
Absolutely.
That's where it starts from. So if we have singles watching us, you must consider this before you get married. Parenting starts with the choice of your life partner. Very key. So, Omonikoro, any advice for parents who are watching out there, people watching out there? Any words?
Okay, I heard something recently. Somebody was telling his child that, you know why God made me your father? So that I can show you how God is.
Well,
I'm like, wow, you can actually say that. That is huge. And then flip that. There's something I like to say sometimes. I say, as a parent, say my children will be 5 times how I am, or 10 times how I am. So if you know the kind of character you have, say your children will be 5 times, you know, or if you know you're cool with the way you are 5 times, amen. I claim it. They will be more honest. They'll be claim it. So if you cannot say that prayer for yourself, there's something you need to watch. There's something you need to
hmm,
change. Really.
hmm,
There's something you need to watch and there's something you need to change. To wrap up, I would say that children are blessings from God. And no matter how stressed you feel, remember that your children will never be children again. This is the only time they have to be children. This is the only chance you have
yes.
to lay the foundation that you need to lay. So give it your best shot. Give it your best shot. At the end of the day, we cannot determine how the children will turn out. That's why we add prayers. We pray. We pray them to Christ. We pray them, set the foundations right with prayer and all of that. But just give it your best. And every day ask yourself, is this my best? Is this my best? Sometimes we do things out of fear. I know I do. I used to do that. I don't know if I still do that, but I see a behavior. Maybe in the house now, I did not give you something, you now fall down and start crying. Huh? In my house? You are falling down and crying and throwing tantrums. No, it cannot be, not in this house. You will cry that cry. That's the end of the world. So sometimes out of fear that if I leave this child now, this child will now start. This child will now start. I just think about the future and how, and sometimes it's just like the way some people pray out of fear. You hear about a terrible story and you start praying out of fear. I think we need to also watch our emotions, and then just as you keep adding knowledge, keep doing better. Our parents, now why they know rich and they do. You
Yes.
know more than your parents did. So it is expected that to whom much is given, much information, much knowledge, much is also expected. So yes, we'll do better together. Please do better. My children are in town. They cannot meet other children that will corrupt them. I'm counting on
Very
you.
true.
I'm
Very
counting
true.
on you to do better
Very
for the sake of of us. Thank you.
Very true. Because when we parent our children right, they're going to mix up with other children. So we need to parent our children right, all of us, because they're going to mix with themselves so that they mingle
Mm.
well and they become better individuals. So very true. Thank you so much, Omonikoro. We've been blessed today. Thank you. We hope to have you
Thank
another
you
time on
for
this
having me.
conversation. Thank you. Yes, thank you so much. Have a lovely night.
You too.
Bye.
Thank you so much for having me. Thanks, everyone. Good night. Bye.
Good night. Bye.
Bye.
So we have had a lovely conversation with Omonikoro today. I believe we've had this well time. I've seen a lot of comments, a lot of comments. Yes, thank you so much for joining us on this conversation. Remember that as parents, you're a steward. God has entrusted you with these children. And as Omonikoro rightly said, children are a blessing from the Lord. You are privileged to be a parent. You are privileged to have children. Don't joke with this privilege. You have a responsibility to bring them up in the way of the Lord. Be a faithful steward, because the truth is that God is counting on you to raise the children He has given you in the right way, according to His will and in His path. So be a faithful steward, be a role model, point your children to God. And like you said, we can do all we need to do all the strategies, implement all the strategies, implement all the rules, the boundaries, but we need God in the equation. We need God in our parenting equation to be able to raise children that will indeed be kings and priests on the earth. So we need to pray. We need to study. We need to take them to the house of the Lord. We need to teach them godly values. Is very important. God is needed in the entire equation. I believe that we've learned a lot today. Like I've always said, to a child, love is spelled time, Time. So try, like we said today, be present, no matter how little the time is. Spend time with your family, spend time with your children. You will not always have them with you. There gets to a time that they will leave your house and you will not have this opportunity. So make the best of the opportunity you have with your children. We're going to come up with our next edition next month. SOP Online Conversation comes up every last Monday of the month. So keep a date with us next month, November, the last Monday of November, because we're going to come with another interesting topic that we believe will be a blessing to every one of us. We'll learn a thing or two. If you have a suggestion of a topic you think we should deliberate on, we should have a conversation on, you can send me a DM. We can look into it, and who knows, we have a conversation on the topic. So thank you everyone for joining us tonight. Thank you so much. I love you, and I'm going to see you in the next online conversation. Have a beautiful rest, everyone. Bye.